Alright, now let's get into broadband compression. Now the multiband already gave us the first tightening up and the first general dynamic control, and now the broadband compressor introduces some extra control and some extra punch. And it really helps to make the whole thing sound more powerful and more in your face. But still we want to tread lightly, like a feather. Because especially here, you can run into pumping if you're not careful. And especially when the peaks are still high and they're not taken care of correctly, and then you have this one broadband compressor perhaps set too hard, and then you're gonna have a bad time. That's why I do recommend take care of your peaks before doing this kind of compression that we're talking about now. So let me just throw in the, where is it? There. Our comp. Let me place it right behind my multiband. Here again, yeah, we want to tread lightly. So let's start off with a basic setting that's good for starting point. Ratio, I wouldn't go too high. So 1.5 is my starting point. Then if I want to have a bit more punch, a bit more power, I may go a little higher. And if I don't want it to compress too much, perhaps because I'm having a softer song right now, then I won't go that high, perhaps 1.3 or 1.4. Yeah, and then, yeah, you see the values here. Now let me shoot for a gain reduction again of about -2 to -3 dB. So let's check it out. Of course, now we lose some volume, so let's raise that again. That's already pretty decent. Okay, now depending on what you want to do, how much you want the drums to let through, you can also play around again with the attack and release time. Faster attack time, you get it all a bit tighter and more under control. Slower attack time, you leave a bit more room for some power to get through. And release time, when you put it faster, then the compressor lets go of its grip quicker. So in the end, you can kind of raise your average loudness with setting the release time faster. And if you put it slower, then you smooth things out again. So let's see, perhaps on this one I want to go a bit quick with the attack. Yeah, something like this. Now the numbers are pretty similar to the multiband compression. For attack time, I play around with values between 10 to 30 milliseconds. And release time, well, this one actually I try some slower stuff with the broadband compressor, something between 100 to up to 400 milliseconds. Also check out this passage here without this compressor. Okay, and now with the broadband compressor. See, without the compressor, it's okay. It's powerful enough how this breakdown hits. But also it seems like it just kind of happens, you know? With this compressor, we have more punch in there when it hits, and then it also has just more impact on the listener. It has more of an overwhelming, powerful, yeah, this is awesome, you know. So there's always this kind of artistic aspect toward music production in mixing and mastering. All right, and now that that is done, I can actually show you the difference between EQing before the dynamics and behind the dynamics. So for the next couple of seconds, you will get a blind test. You will just listen to the mix, and the chain will change a couple of times throughout. And if you hear the difference, then why are you even watching this tutorial? Okay, so see you again in a couple of seconds. Welcome back. Now, what I also hold as part of dynamic processing to some extent is saturation. I mentioned this a couple of times throughout this tutorial now. Think of saturation as a combination of compression and distortion. So next to giving our mix a nice warm coloring, it also, again, adds more control on our dynamics and helps us to make things louder. You already saw how the supercharger works, so why don't I show you this again? Okay, so this goes behind my compressor. In general, saturation I would put behind your EQs and dynamics, okay? I would always start off with taking care of the frequencies and dynamics before going into any other little gimmicks. Especially with saturation. When you put it too soon, then, for example, the peaks could make the saturator distort too much, and we don't want that. We want the saturator to work also a bit more coherently. Alrighty, so again, we want to turn on the third knob, and let's see how we can set this one up. Okay, now the input is constantly here in the red, but that's not a bad thing, okay? You can see in the metering here how it puts in this control. That's crazy. Let me show you without and with again. But this is already pretty heavy. It's kind of squashed already, so let's turn down the wet dry mix and so yeah. If you have the supercharger at your disposal, by all means use it. But nowadays I actually go with the Steven Slate virtual tape machine. And I really like this thing and how it colors the mix. It provides a nice fat and rich low end, fat mids and smooth high end. At least with a setting that I will use. Okay, let's check this out. And there you can hear why I will need this second 30 Hertz cuts behind the saturator. It really gives you a rich low end, okay? And again, here, keep in mind, saturator does not equal saturator. So when the saturation calls for it, I use the supercharger. When it doesn't, then I use the virtual tape machine from Steven Slate's. And when this doesn't work out, then I use the saturation knob from Softtube that comes with Studio One Pro, which I showed you on my snare mix. And yeah, just experiment with what you have at your disposal. Now, since we've come this far, why don't we give the whole mix a before and after? You can also see down here in the metering again how the peaks are actually not really going any higher before or after, but the average loudness is completely raised. And we don't seem to run into any trouble of pumping or squashing or distorting like crazy, because we know we need to tread lightly. Alrighty, then next part we'll get into 2 more little gimmicks before we go into the limiter. Until then, see ya.